Buying a used car is one of the biggest financial investments most people will ever make. And with so many people looking to unload their vehicles these days, there's no shortage of options. But the flip side of that is that there are also plenty of bad cars out there waiting to be sold to unsuspecting buyers. That's why it's very important to learn how to spot a bad car before you buy it. To help you out, we've compiled this ultimate guide to spotting a lemon. Now, these tips are in no particular order because the importance of them can vary from car to car. So, let's dive right in and get started. If possible, check the service history for any missing or inconsistent records. If the car has a complete service history, it means that the seller either took very good care of the vehicle or has done so at least since they owned it. If there are some services missing from the schedule maintenance log, that may not automatically make the car a bad purchase. But if there are, say, oil changes or other regular maintenance items that have been skipped, it could be a sign that the car has not always been properly cared for. Also, if the service history doesn't match what the seller tells you or what the car's condition suggests, then that could be a red flag that the vehicle has been misrepresented. Rust, dents, and paint mismatches are three things you should keep an eye out for when inspecting a used car. Rust is usually pretty obvious, but it's worth noting because it can significantly reduce the value of a vehicle. The same goes for dents, which can also impact the car's resale value. As for paint mismatches, they could indicate that the car has been in an accident and not repaired correctly. Look for signs of previous accidents or repairs. It's worth noting that not all cars will show signs of damage after being in an accident, especially if they were taken to a reputable repair shop. However, certain telltale signs such as misaligned panels, uneven gaps between body panels, different shades of paint and clear coat, and signs of recent or sloppy workmanship are surefire ways to spot a car that's been in an accident and not fixed properly. You can also check the vehicle's history report for a list of accidents and major repairs that have been recorded. All cars have various lights, indicators, and electronics that need to work properly for your safety and the safety of others on the road. So take the time to inspect all of them thoroughly. This includes headlights, brake lights, turn signals, interior lights, hazard lights, and any other warning indicators. For the sake of simplicity, you may want to ask the seller to start the engine while you walk around the car to see if all the lights illuminate properly. The next thing you should look for is uneven tire wear. Uneven tire wear can be caused by a number of things, including improper wheel alignment, worn suspension components, or aggressive driving. Whatever the cause, it's a good idea to take note of it before you buy the car. If the tires look like they're wearing evenly, then that's a good sign. But if they don't, then it could be a red flag that the car has some underlying issues. You should also look at the tread depth and see if it's consistent across the tire. If the tread is worn down in some spots and not others, that could mean the car has been driven aggressively or has a problem with the suspension or steering. Additionally, you should check the tire's sidewalls for any bulges, cracks, or other signs of damage. Any of these could mean the tire needs to be replaced soon, which could be an additional expense you'll have to pay for. Finally, you'll want to check the spare tire as well, because it's not uncommon for sellers to overlook this when preparing their car for sale. Listen for unusual noises when starting up the engine. A little bit of clatter is normal when the engine first starts up, especially in older cars. But if you hear anything that sounds out of the ordinary, then it could be a cause for concern. This is especially true if you hear a lot of tapping or knocking. These sounds could indicate that the engine is worn out and needs to be replaced. Of course, it's not always easy to diagnose engine problems just by listening to them, but it's definitely something you should keep in mind when buying a used car. While on the topic of noises, listen for unusual sounds while the engine is idling. Many engines will make a faint humming noise when idling, but anything more pronounced than that could be a red flag. A rough idle could mean that the engine is misfiring or there's another problem with the ignition system. Another thing to listen for is any unusual sounds when braking. If the car has a grinding or squealing sound when you press the brake pedal, It could mean that the brake pads are worn out and need to be replaced. Of course, this is not always the case, but it's definitely worth checking out before you buy the car. Check the brakes themselves to see if they feel responsive. If you press the brake pedal and it feels like it's taking a long time for the car to slow down, then there could be a problem with the brake system. This could mean that the brake pads are worn out or there's a leak in the brake lines. Either way, it's definitely something you want to get checked out before you buy the car. Look under the car for any leaks or corrosion. One of the first things you should do when inspecting a potential used car is to look underneath it for any signs of leakage. Cars can leak all sorts of fluids, including engine oil, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, and coolant. If you see any evidence of leakage, then it's definitely worth asking the seller about it. Leaks are often indicative of a more serious problem, so it's important to get to the bottom of them before you buy the car. Another thing to look for underneath the car is corrosion. This is especially important if you live in an area with harsh weather conditions. If you see any signs of corrosion, then it could mean that the car has been in an accident or has spent a lot of time on the road. Corrosion can also be a sign that the car has not been properly maintained. Take it for a test drive. Probably the most important tip of all is to take the car for a test drive before you buy it. This will allow you to get a feel for how the car handles on the road and if there are any problems with the transmission or other major components. Be sure to test drive the car in a variety of conditions, including city and highway driving, if possible. And be sure to listen for any unusual noises while you're driving. Pay attention to how the car accelerates, steers, and stops. If anything feels off, then it's probably best to walk away from the deal. Before you hand over any money, be sure to verify that the vehicle identification number or VIN matches the car's registration and history report. The VIN is a unique 17-character code that identifies the car and its history. You can find the VIN on the car's dashboard or driver's side door jamb. Once you have the VIN, you can check it against the car's registration and history report to make sure they match. If they don't, then it could mean that the car has been stolen or has a different title than the seller told you. You can also use the VIN to check the car's history for free on websites like Carfax and AutoCheck. This will give you a detailed report on the car's past, including any accidents or damage that has been recorded. Hopefully, these tips will help you avoid buying a bad car. Remember to be patient and do your research before making a purchase. Don't be afraid to walk away from a deal if something doesn't seem right. Thanks for watching.